All right, thank you so much for staying with us. Devolution CS Eugene Wamalwa is still with us here, taking your questions here. Akayoyo on Twitter says, who are the vulnerable families according to the CES, and how do you know that you're vulnerable in terms of how much you earn? What is the figure, CES?
Thank you very much, Trevor. I think that is a question that is now repeated. I have answered it, and I've said the details will be announced as we speak. The system has been developed, and it's a cabinet decision that will be formally announced once the system runs. As we said, there's a piloting that has been going on, and in due course, the announcement will be made, the number of Kenyans who will benefit, the system, how it will work, the basis or criteria for identification of the vulnerable. But as we speak, this is information that is within a government, and it's been shared with the county governments, as it has been worked together with the governors.
All right, let's bring up another question for CS.
Can the government publish the names of those people that they have sent the cash already? Because it's not the first time that the government has given cash or maybe distributed food to people, and a year later you hear a particular scandal. Maybe you never know that you're going to have the coronavirus scandal months later.
CS.
Yeah, thank you. You know, the counties that are affected, the cases that have been said have been very, very specific. You've been hearing weekly briefs from CS Kagwe, and the information that has been released so far, that the piloting is going on. And in due course, once the system is full-fledged, the full information will be released. The official announcement will be made because it is a cabinet decision, and I don't want to preempt it. So let Kenyans know that even as we are facing this situation, we are addressing all aspects of this disaster that we are facing and the pandemic that we are facing as well. Thank you.
Okay. CS, there's still another one from Atieko Lawrence here. They're still not very satisfied with that answer. They say, why is it that the government is giving others money, but others are not getting, yet these people are in the same area and are or from vulnerable groups as well? Ama government inatumia njia gani kujua nani vulnerable and deserves this cash transfer?
As I said, the program is yet to be launched. So they shouldn't feel like maybe they are being left out. Because once it is fully operational, then it will be rolled out fully. You know, when you're piloting, like when we started the cash transfer system, they would pick a few areas to pilot, to test and see if the system is working. But as we speak, it has not been fully launched. Okay. So they should be patient, and in due course, the program will be fully launched, and every beneficiary will be identified and known. And the criteria, it will be fair, it is very scientific, and we have a very professional team that has been working on this to develop the system across the country. Thank you.
All right, let's bring up another question for CS.
Government using to identify the most vulnerable families, for example, in Mathare slums, where a majority of the households have been affected by this pandemic, and also how are we sure that the donations coming in will not end up in people's pockets, or they go about distributing to their friends and relatives?
All right, CS, that one now is on the issue of transparency. How do we ensure that these resources get to the people who deserve it and they won't go to their friends like we've seen before and relatives?
Yes, as I've said, the system has been developed very scientifically. The data will be available. And also, it is a system that is being worked both by the national and the county governments. We are working with the governors and all our teams on the ground. We also have private sector on board. We are working together. So let them, I plead that they have some patience so that when the system is now fully operational, they'll get to know all the details. Then they can ask the questions. Thank you.
All right, let's bring up another question.
Section of greedy Kenyans have been benefiting from relief food at the expense of poor Wanjiko. What steps are being taken by the government to ensure that only genuine cases benefit from this food? Thank you.
All right, CS, I'll bring up another question because you've already answered that one as well.
The youths among the vulnerable, Yet we are the same population who are supposed to carry this country forward even after the COVID-19. You only care about the young ones and the older people. But as the youths, the jobless youths, you are ignoring us among the vulnerable. Will we get help or not?
CS.
Thank you very much. Starting with the issue of relief food, we know that we've had challenges with relief food. And even in the past, we've had cases where government officials have been arrested for diverting this food. And that is why His Excellency the President directed that we have a task force that will now see the migration from physical distribution of food or manual distribution of food where people will queue for long. And there will be many challenges, logistical and otherwise, to a more dignified and digitalized system. As we speak, that has already been done, and you will see going into the future a change in how we give relief assistance digitally instead of having to physically bring the food to the people. And we want to assure them that even in areas like West Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet, where we've had the disaster, you heard from the regional commissioner, Natembeya. He was very, very categorical. They know the number of households affected, the number of people affected. So the food we are providing is very specific to the victims, but we can't rule out those who try to take advantage of this process to get what they don't deserve or to reap where they did not sow. But these we have made sure that very, very stern action will be meted to anyone who engages in this. But for the vulnerable, as I have said, it will be a fair, an open and transparent process. No one will be left behind. That is what the president has directed. And we know that just like the elderly, the youth are also vulnerable. So it is not a question of leaving out the youth or only taking the disabilities and the elderly. This, you heard the president direct that apart from the normal allocation to the elderly and the persons with disabilities, there's an extra 10 billion that was set aside to actually, in addition to what has been there, go towards supporting those people who are affected. 8.5 has already been released, and we have 500 million that is going to persons with disabilities. So let no one feel they will be left behind. Thank you.
All right. CS Gadara here is saying, it is amazing listening to Honorable Eugene Wamalwa on Citizen TV Townhall. He speaks as if the coronavirus and flooding crisis are sometimes in the future, and government is still figuring out how to deal with them in due course. Things will be done as if Kenyans can wait. What was the prior planning? Where is the prior planning, CS?
As we said, action is going on. If you've been listening to the weekly briefings. But what we are working on is a system that will now, as we progress, be able to give support to cushion the population. As the numbers rise, we are prepared for that. And we are putting in place systems, and we have teams working around the clock to ensure that we cushion Kenyans from this adversity. It is not that there's nothing happening. As we speak, so much is already being done in terms of supporting all our peoples in all our counties. As we have said, already 5 billion has been released to support the counties. Already 8.5 billion has been released to cushion the vulnerable. So there's so much going on even as we prepare. We hope for the best, but we also prepare for the worst. Thank you.
All right, that same question by Gadara is almost the same as what Chezake is asking. He's saying, why are we not harvesting water, yet we will have drought in a few months? Where are the dams? Where are the storage ponds? How are we tapping into the rainfall in the long rain season?
Actually, the water harvesting is going on. Probably it hasn't been able to go across the country. Our dams, as we speak, are full. If you listen to our brother C.S. Katara today, he was saying most of the dams actually are full. And there are those medium-sized dams and water ponds that we were able to put up the whole of last year. As we speak, they are filling up. So even as we are facing the challenges of the floods, We are also taking this opportunity to refill our dams. We are also taking this opportunity, and I want to urge farmers that we utilize this rain to go on with the planting that we need to do, because we will need the food, so that even as we are planting our crops, it's also a good opportunity for us to plant trees. It's a very, very a good opportunity now. And CS Tobiko was very, very clear that they will be working with the counties so that we take this opportunity. It's a blessing and a curse at the same time, so that we continue planting crops and trees, and we also conserve our forests. Thank you.
All right, CS Kiongozi Bulo says, I honestly do not think CS Wamalwa is answering the food question. Very unspecific. First, the census, then committees, then now piloting. When is it to be launched then? And the provisions, how long are they expected to last, since this COVID-19 is unpredictable?
Yes, as I said, that is a cabinet decision that will be formally announced. And it will be very, very specific in terms of the duration, in terms of the beneficiaries, in terms of the criteria and the basis for identification, and in terms of location, in which county, which locality. So please be patient. And as I said, it is a process that is a tail end that is being concluded. The piloting has been done, and now the full rollout will be done shortly. Thank you.
When is shortly, CS? I think that's the reason why Kenyans are a bit agitated. When are we likely to hear these proposals from the cabinet? Next week? End of the month?
An announcement will be made. An announcement will be made. Thank you.
All right. You really don't want to get into those details. All right. So we have another one here. Drake Arioki says, why is the government warning Kenyans living in low-lying areas against anticipated floods? All this time, we couldn't manage to construct dams in vulnerable areas. Until when will Kenyans suffer from floods? You've just mentioned that the dams are full, but shouldn't we have constructed more by now?
We have more that are under construction. As we speak, in Ukambani, we have the largest dam actually in our country. The Thwake Dam is under construction. Yeah. When you go to Kirinyaga, Thiba Dam is under construction. And we have other dams that are ongoing. There are 3 dams that we're putting up in Turkana. We will also be putting up one in West Pokot, as well as Marsabit. These 3 dams were directed by His Excellency the President to put up. So it's not that the construction is not ongoing. It is ongoing, even as we are receiving the rains now. But the areas where we know that there will be heavy rains, the experts have the information shared both with national government and the counties. Right. That's why we are urging people, when we give you a warning that it's likely to happen, it is definitely going to happen. Please do not wait for it to happen. Prevention is better than cure. That's what we are pledging. Thank you.
And Fred Osiro here on Twitter is wondering, what is the government plan on feeding of orphans, street children, and the homeless who cannot be found in one place?
Thank you, Trevor.
Yeah, the question is...
As we said, we have...
Go ahead, sorry. Go ahead, CS.
So sorry, please repeat the question.
So Fred Osiro is wondering, what is the government's plan on feeding of orphans, street children, and the homeless who cannot be found in one place?
As we said, we have the data and the information where all these vulnerable are. And they are part of the program. We have program for the orphans, persons with disabilities, and programs to support all the vulnerable. So they will be reached through their counties, because both the national and the county governments have their data, and their issues are being addressed.
All right. CS Isaac from Nakuru is wondering, why does the government import maize instead of supporting Kenyan farmers? This year, NCPB did not buy maize from farmers. Why should they import instead of buying Kenyan maize?
Thank you very much. I think that decision was made last year. For the first time, you did not see government importing maize from Mexico or anywhere else. As we speak, the maize farmers are happy. I think we have the best prices for the longest time, almost in the last 1 decade. Farmers are getting good prices, and we've not had them complain. But the importation is very limited. That is why you had CS Munya say, he was very specific, that he's only importing 2 million bags. So we not have a situation where, like in previous years, you have over 12 million bags coming in and flooding our market. That is the difference between now and then. So we are very sensitive to the issue of farmers. And because of the emergencies that we have, we, as a matter of precaution, we want the millers to bring in just the 2 million white maize to ensure that the unga is available at the right prices and Kenyans are not exploited.
Okay.
But also for animal feed, we have the other 2 million bags.
All right.
So we're not talking over 10 million or the flooding of the market. Thank you.
All right. CS, this is not in your docket, but you sit in the cabinet. Therefore, you might have heard from your fellow in the water ministry. He says that in Nairobi, Embakasi, there is no water, and yet the dams are full.
As you know, we get our water from Dakaini, and we are happy that some of the dams, one of the dams that actually has received quite a number of milliliters of water is Dakaini, meaning we have more water and the rationing is likely to subside. But also, as we speak, the Ministry of Water has been actually going to the estates to support those affected to have more water. We've had a program led by CS Sicily Karaoke of water bowsers going to the different parts of Nairobi. So Embakasi is one of the areas. I'm sure that she's watching this and that she will be able to ensure that we have more support for Embakasi so that Kenyans affected have enough water. Thank you.
All right. So on Twitter, Jolu Mayobi says, my grandmother is 89 years old and disabled and hails from Busia County, Rubie village. She does not receive the money for the aid. What are the qualifications for such a person to get the stipend?
I think she qualifies. What she needs to do is to be registered. So please ask him to liaise with the local administration to ensure that she's captured in that data. Thank you.
Where do they get registered, CS, if you don't mind?
They should be able to go through the chief, the local chief, to be able to get registered.
Okay.
Because she's definitely over 70, she should be benefiting from that. Thank you.
Okay, we have someone here who calls themselves the poor. Says again, if all the dams are full, why is there still water rationing in Nairobi?
That is a question I had already answered, and the Ministry of Water is doing much more to ensure that water bowsers reach most parts of Nairobi to supplement. Because the deficit is still there, as you know. Even in Dakaini, we still have a deficit of over 250 million liters. That is why we have the Northern Collector Tunnel being constructed. It's nearing completion. This is what will now address the water problem that we have in Nairobi, the water deficit.
Okay.
Thank you.
CS Gadara is asking, ask the CS how about the arrangements for social distancing for displaced people and how they are to be protected from coronavirus at this desperate time. People are also being flooded out in Nairobi slums. What are the arrangements for them?
I think that is something that the government has been very, very clear about. One way of preventing the spread is really following the guidelines from the Ministry of Health on social distancing, on wearing of masks. And this is something that every Kenyan has to do. It is not something that you have a discretion over. And that is why measures are being taken to ensure that it is observed, including our market areas where we access our food. And the county governments are working very, very closely with the national government to ensure that this is implemented. And we urge Kenyans to be sensitive to this because it is one way of preventing the spread of this disease.
Okay. CS, you and I have had this conversation several times now as we close. We're now talking about floods. We will talk about drought. Last time we were talking about drought. Now we're talking about floods. What are the long-term measures to ensure that this doesn't happen in the vulnerable places? Yes.
Thank you. Trevor, as I told you, I remember we had a discussion late last year. And I did tell you that the biggest challenge we had was that we did not have a proper policy and legal and institutional framework to deal with our disasters. As you know, under our constitution and the fourth schedule, disaster risk management is a shared responsibility between the two levels of government. And now, as we speak, from the time we were together, we had several bills in Parliament, one by the MP for Kikuyu, Honorable Kimani Ichung'wah, one by Senator Sakaja and Senator Mutula Kilonzo Jr. As we speak, we have been able to harmonize these bills. And before Cabinet now, I'm very happy to say we have a bill that harmonizes all the other bills that were there. We also have a policy in place that now gives a proper framework, institutional framework, and how the two levels of government can work together. It will also bring the two levels of government through an intergovernmental council where a disaster happening anywhere, both levels of government can work seamlessly to address it. We'll also be establishing in every county a county risk management committee, co-chaired by the governor and our county commissioner. As we speak already, we have this in place. Even in food distribution, we have said everything must go through the governor and the county commissioner. And we'll be able to, with the improved institutional, legal and policy framework, be able to deal with disasters. We will also be able to classify disasters. Where a disaster can be handled by a county, that will be done at that level. But where it cannot, then the president will have powers to declare a national disaster, and the national government will take over now. So that, Trevor, will see risk management of our disasters in future changed and positively solved. Thank you.
CS, finally, as we finish, the policies you're talking about are very good on paper, but Julia from Kawangware slums says it is easy for government to speak, but there is no action.
There is action, Trevor. From when we spoke, a lot of progress has been made. And that is why, as I'm saying today, we are at a place where going forward, disasters will be handled better than they've been handled before, for lack of policy and framework, for knowing what the left hand will be doing and what the right hand will be doing in terms of national and county responsibilities. So the framework is there. It will ensure that we improve in terms of our preparedness, to improve in terms of our response, in terms of mitigation, as well as recovery. Thank you.
All right. And CS Jolu Moyabi, who you are told to make sure that the grandmother is registered, says, Trevor, my grandmother has been registered more than 2 times for the past 3 years, but she has never received any payment of any sort. And even recently, they did food distribution, but she received nothing. So who do we complain to?
If she has been registered, then that is a matter that can be addressed through the Ministry of Labor.
Okay. So I should tell Jolu Moyobi to go to the Ministry of Labor or to go to the local administrative or to the local chief?
Yes, with her number, and she will be able to be assisted.
All right. Your final message to Kenyan CS.
Thank you very much. Mine is to plead with every Kenyan that climate change is real. We have gone through a very tough year as a country. We started with drought to floods, then we had locusts. Now, as we're dealing with COVID, floods are back. And this has stretched and tested our resilience. We are a resilient nation, but our resilience has been tested to the limit. And we must work together. When, as government, we give you information, and we urge you through our county commissioners in each county and through our county governments, please work with them, please respond so that we can avert further disasters. The rains are coming, they're here with us, they are going to be heavy, they are going to be abnormal. But this is what climate change is all about. What is the terrible abnormality becomes the new normal under this situation. So let's work together. And we have said it will not just be in West Pokot and Elgeyo Marakwet.
All
It
right.
will not just be in Kisumu and Busia. We are looking at the entire coastal strip. We are looking at northern Kenya. We are looking at Murang'a. Please respond to our warnings.
All right. Honorable Eugene Wamalwa, CS Devolution, thank you so much for making time for us. I know it's time for you to get some sleep as you go to Chesogon again tomorrow. Thanks for making time for us and speaking and answering all those questions, all right? So that is where we leave the Monday report now. My name is Trevor Mbija. Always a pleasure having you with us. These are the latest numbers we have. 281 cases so far, 14 deaths, 69 recoveries, 13,892 tested. Stay home, stay clean, and sanitize anytime you touch any surface, all right? My name is Trevor Mbija. Always a pleasure having you with us. We care for you. Take care of yourself as well, all right? Good night for now.